Hey everyone, I'm Veronica Hill with California Travel Tips, and today we're in Cambria and we are going on a tour of Nitt Witt Ridge. Wait till you see inside this place.
It's a California state landmark, number 939, which is a folk art environment. But actually it's a man, he built this place out of junk or stuff he collected. He spent his lifetime, he started in 1928. He actually lived in it until 1989, till he's 92. And he would just collect everything, from rocks to junk. He was actually the local trash man for 30 years in town, and I guess he brought his work home with him. The abalones, they seem to go throughout the whole property. And like I was saying, he wasn't known as an abalone diver, he was a town's trash man. And they used to process abalones for their meat around here. And in the 40s and 50s, he'd take his trash truck and just haul them away as trash. But you know, there'd be the days Art ran out of abalone shells. He started resorting to toilet seats, which he had a special use for them. He would actually use his toilet seats for picture frames. And even if he liked you, you might end up in there. That's one of his idols, Will Rogers. But it's kind of funny about Art. You know, Art, he let people in and out of here. You'd drive by and he said he'd have to size people up by their looks. Now, if he liked your looks, he'd let you in. He let a lot of people in. Art said the ones he didn't like the looks of, he'd have to start shaking his fist at them, say, "Move along, small change." People said he didn't get moved, he'd throw rocks, he'd throw a fit up here. But he also liked to walk ladies through here. And once in a while on tours, I actually get a lady, they said, well, if he really likes your looks, he's liable to ask you to spend the night. If that happened, he would call this his woman's room. And this is basically a guest room. But I think he called it the woman's room as a color. But it's funny, he built a lot of his and her stuff, but he's never known to be married or have children. The longer I'm here, the more I look around. I don't know if he could find a woman brave enough to live in the place with him, but he was never married. But you know, it's kind of interesting, because he had a nickname, Tinker Paw, which he liked, because he said he liked to tinker with his paws, and it was a good one. He'd always tinker with his paws. This napkin's actually from the 1939 Golden Gate Exposition in San Francisco. There's stories he would work as a cook at this, which he's paid. But it is kind of interesting. People have researched him. Art was also known as a long-distance swimmer. And there's documentation in the 20s, he would swim one of the Great Lakes from the United States to Canada. But there are things in here just postmarked from the 40s up to the 80s. And it does look like people liked him. There's greeting cards and things. But for me, it's stuff I remember doing, saving pull tabs. But this is what's left of his stuff. There's people, they tell me he had a bed in here. Now, when we actually came here, the room was ransacked. We straightened it up. But there's stories he had a bed in here. That disappeared by the time we'd come. But this is what's left of his stuff when they took him out of here in '89. And now this room, you can just peek at this. That's how all the rooms look. This is just like a utility room. But we didn't clean this room. This is how they'd all look. But what's kind of interesting, if you watch your head, it's the stairway. The stairway he would call the California cooler. Now, Art claimed this stairway stayed 50 degrees. This was his refrigerator. And there's pictures he would keep milk, butter, and cheese sitting on the shelf. I'm glad that's no longer here, because this stuff up here, that's actually his stuff. He canned that in the 80s off the fruit trees. And we had a big earthquake about 10 years ago. I'm glad it didn't get knocked off. We'd have been in trouble. But yeah, the way he dug it out, the breeze is just blowing through here. And that's his applesauce, ketchup, garlic, and vinegar. Now, I don't know if you want to just look at it. Usually I show a video in here. This room, when we came, the roof was caved in. This was a dining room, living room. In pictures, he had a dining room, a living room here. The ceiling was finished. He had 2 big abalone arches. He used to divide the dining room from his living room. And he actually did have a homemade fireplace in here. So he did have heating. It was gas-fired. It was decorated with abalone shells.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, just everything he do. Now, I'll show you stuff out here. He had a good sense of humor. And he seemed to build a lot of jokes into his house. He has toilet seat picture frames. His and her toilet seat picture frames. I think this is to complement that. His and her bathroom, his 2-seated outhouse. He would actually tell people, he did this so he could sit here and have conversations with people. But there are pictures in the 60s and 70s. People have their picture taken with him sitting in there. And he built that right next to the outdoor barbecue, maybe for convenience. But, you know, the reason he may have built the place, he would actually tell people while he was building it, he would take a coffee break every 15 minutes, which he described as a coffee cup filled with a Busch beer. And he would call beer cans building materials. You guys look around, you'll see a lot of beer cans. Most of them, they'll turn out to be Busch beer. but I've been here a while. It looks like there might be more beer cans than the abalone shells. And you look at the place, you think maybe it was one too many coffee breaks is the reason he built it. But the older he got, the more beer he seemed to be drinking. But it's kind of sad. He was an orphan. He was born in Oakland in 1896. He said his father was Irish, which he never knew. He also said his mother was a Klamath Indian. He claimed his mother died the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. He was an orphan when he was 10. But then it's funny, he was never known to be married, have children, brothers, sisters, any family that we know of whatsoever. Now, they actually put him in the rest home against his will in 1989 when he was 92. He passed away in the rest home at the age of 96 in 1992. But they put him in against his will in 89, and when they put him in there, they gutted the bathroom so he couldn't come back. But what's interesting, he did have a plumbed-in tub and shower. But I give tours all the time, and I walk people through here who might even only let in for a day. Everyone, they tells me it didn't matter, especially when he got older, you couldn't stand close to him long. Art, he always said he only took a bath once a year in celebration of the rainy season, whether he needed it or not. But just watch your step. But then when you get in here, he was known to like animals, which it kind of reflects in the collage, nature. We do think he kind of liked the ladies. But the longer I'm here, I think his true love may have been the outhouse jokes and toilet seats. It's this bathroom humor. It seems to repeat itself throughout the whole property. And this is actually his bedroom. There's pictures that had carpeting, a bed, most of that's gone. But you guys can see his clothes are in here. Now, he was the garbage man, but he was also known as a cook. And there's stories when he was in his 80s, Cambria Pines Lodge restaurant, he'd get busy, he'd cook there. I kind of believe that story. I think this is his last cook's uniform. He has a dirty chef's jacket, he's got a clean one, the pants. And, well, I just had a guy in here the other day that he was up here from 67 to 72. He would eat dinner with Art. Because if Art lets you in, he'd want to cook for you. Now, most people I talk to, they wouldn't eat his cooking. But like, these guys seem kind of normal. Some people said he was real surprisingly clean around food, and I guess he could cook good. People are just telling me, all of them, you'd visit him, half the time this is all he'd be wearing and nothing to be on under it. The older neighbor ladies are saying, well, when he got real old, this is all he was wearing in town, and he gets windy. And you know, that may have helped him in the rest home a little faster, I'm thinking. But this is my favorite room, because he made a real simple skylight out of corrugated fiberglass, and this is his kitchen. But it was kind of eerie. I come in here in 99, I felt like I was breaking into his house. His canned goods are still in here. Wow. And then he's 92 when he went in the rest home. I don't think he's feeling too regular. His Metamucil's still in here. But you know, with what's left in here in the bedroom, he still gets a little sense of feeling how he's living just with the stuff that's left. But he's kind of a funny bachelor. You look around, over here, he salvaged a baby's dresser for kitchen built-in drawers. Now see, for me, I never knew him. It's stuff like this. I was going through this drawer, I found a zipper collection. I can remember when I was a kid, my grandma had a drawer full of strings, buttons, zippers. People in the Depression, World War II, they never waste anything. And see, it's stuff like when I was a kid. This went away in the 70s, but I remember blue chip trading stamps. It is kind of sad. He was a trash man, but he got fired in the late 50s. And after he was fired as the garbage man, it looked like he'd struggle with money. There's bills. Art actually owned the property next door where they built the house. He lost that lot in the 60s for property taxes. So late 50s on, he had financial trouble. They put him in the rest home. People did do some vandalism. There'd been water damage. Now we fixed the roof. It hadn't leaked in here in about 12 years. It's stable. We're probably done working in here, because I don't know if you guys noticed his stove. It almost looks like it did in the video from 77. Well, I didn't show you the video, but there's a video from, the kitchen's almost the same, it's just a lot dirtier. And it's funny to me, I've been here since 99. We never seem to have trouble with cockroaches, rats, mice. I think it's so petrified now, nothing wants it. But when they took him out of here in 89, I'm surprised nothing got in the oats. There's actually syrup and flour in that other cabinet. And I have people saying it's cleaner now than when he lived here at the end. He was bedridden. Now, people liked him. They said, we come in and try to clean the place. They said he'd scream and yell. He called it nature's artwork. So it might have looked more like a haunted house when he lived here at the end than it does now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I remember that. But see, for me, like everyone, like most people, my grandma had a bedspread like this. And then you look in here, it's like in your grandma's linen cabinet, the wallpaper's mermaids. Even though it's remnants or junk, he would gravitate towards the pink flowery stuff. But you know, at one time he had linoleum, asphalt type flooring in here, carpeting. I guess in the 60s, 70s, this guy said he was always busy cleaning, folding, working on something. He said it was real neat. And he said what the neat thing was, it was all junk or trash, and he made it look nice. He would do interesting things with it. It's just, I wish it could be back in that condition again. And this was probably just the front door. There's a picture, he had a 6 or 8 pane glass door here, but I think this is the front door because the tile work was an entryway. But what's really kind of interesting about the place, I don't know if you guys have been noticing the handrails or all the pipes. This was actually the plumbing system. All the pipes would carry water. They worked up until 1997. He had water running throughout all these handrails. Now watch your step. I'll take you on up here to his garden area. Now Art, he did say his mother was a Klamath Indian. He said he was an Indian all his life and he lived off the land. All these little plots were gardens. And you know, people, they tell me it was real nice. They said he would grow corn, artichoke, squash, and all these plots. What is kind of funny, the city water hasn't worked since '97. We don't water anything. But this is a pear tree to fruit every year. He has apple trees that fruit. There seems to be enough groundwater. The trees live off that. But at the end of the season, squirrels and deers prune the trees. So whether anyone's here or not, between animals and groundwater, Nitt Witt Ridge halfway takes care of itself. But what's funny, we have a recording of Art. He said he liked animals more than people. He said animals were his friends. Now what's funny, back in this garden, he said he had a big problem with gophers. You might notice he built this planter with all the tabs turned out. He said the wind would blow through here. Whistle would scare gophers. He wouldn't have to poison them. But if you guys would come back here in a couple months, that's just a good excuse to take another coffee break. It doesn't scare anything away. And you may have noticed he has a neighbor. Now he used to own that property. When he lost that lot in the 60s, nothing was there. People tell me after he lost the lot, it went up for sale. They said anybody looking at the lot would set him off. He'd start doing crazy things. He didn't want neighbors. Those people are the original owner builders. They came here in '72. That lady, Charlotte, she was saying the first day she's looking at the lot, she said, I was just sitting over there. She said, I looked up, this old man comes walking up towards me. She said, he didn't say anything. He leaned over, spit a big wad of tobacco on her shoe. She said, I couldn't believe it. He just walked up and spit on me. She kind of went into shock. But Charlotte, she said when she looked up at his face, she said he had the craziest twisted up look I'd ever seen. She said, I couldn't help it. I kind of started laughing at him. She said, after I started laughing, he jumped back, held up both hands, said, you're it. And he ended up helping her and her husband survey the land to build a house. They tell me when he lived here, they never closed the gate. The gate would stay open. So those people liked him, and we're lucky they still live there.
Wow.
But then you go through here, just, well, people have taken a lot, but just little things even. This is just a drum or trash can he cut in half. He turned into a wheelbarrow. He would try to salvage everything. And that's what's interesting about this place. For a guy that couldn't waste anything, this looks like the only thing he wasted on the whole property. This is what's left of his original house. He actually built and lived in this when he first came here in '28. We have a picture of this taken in 1931 when it was in one piece. It had a whole upper wooden level. He had a front entrance on this end. It had a living room about where the tree is. But that's actually the kitchen floor. That kitchen sink, that used to sit up in the kitchen. And you know where the broken down roof is his bedroom. His bed and clothes are still sitting in that bedroom. But it's funny, I talked to a lot of old timers around here. Art, he'd always talk about a woman. He said her name was Gloria. He'd tell people this lady Gloria was the love of his life. He said him and Gloria came here in '28 from San Francisco. He said Gloria never liked it here, it was a boonies. He also said Gloria took as many coffee breaks as he did and was always cheating around on him. And he told the neighbor Charlotte, Gloria and her mother cleaned out his bank account one day, left, never came back. He said that's when he lost it, started building Nitt Witt Ridge after Gloria left him. Now, it's funny, we hear stories a tree hit this in the 60s. We actually had this cleaned up a few years ago. In the bottom floor, we found 3 women's shoes, or rotted soles with their high heels in there. And over the years, I walk a lot of people through here. He let in 99% of them. Remember seeing his 2-seated outhouse? He was taking people in the kitchen, living room. He didn't seem to bring people back here to talk about this place. The neighbor Charlotte, she said all he would ever call this was the louse house. So I'm thinking maybe Gloria turned him into Captain Nitt Witt. Because it's real funny to me. You think he would have tried to salvage the rock, the wood, something. He let that whole place just rot away inside and out, it seems. Now, you know, with all the pipes carrying water, he would put like a little drinking fountain here and there. I kind of wish this still worked. You know, you look around, he probably ran as much electricity as water, but people said he had it all lit up. At one time, when it was all put together, he had lights back here. It was kind of pretty. And what else is kind of interesting, there's a lot of glare right now, but when the trees weren't here, Moonstone Beach is actually out there. You can see the ocean. And when he built this cabin, I don't think any of these trees were here. He had a nice view. And I look at this. He's kind of private. You really can't see this from the street. Something seemed to happen to him. He changed. He wanted to be an obnoxious and wanting a lot of attention from being back here, just going down there right on the street. Now we think in the 60s a tree had fallen and actually knocked a wall down, but embedded in the hillside are tires, there's washing machines, engines, gas tanks. That's probably what's behind all the walls. And the people that remember him being the garbage man, they said he'd pick up our trash, he'd never go to the dump. 3 or 4 times a day for 30 years, they said he was dumping stuff here. I'm starting to think it's just a big landfill covered with rocks. And then when you guys get over here, this little gazebo, these arches, he'd call this the wedding chapel. I think maybe he built that hoping glory had come back. But I was given a tour a few years ago. This guy, he said he was up here about 45 years ago. He said the day he was up here, his friend got married in the wedding chapel. And I hear crazy stories, because back in the 60s and 70s, Highway 1 was full of hippies. This was a hippie magnet, a lot of people up here. So I'm not sure people are actually getting married in his wedding chapel or just saying they were. It's the longer I'm hearing more people I talk to, I think he may have been marrying him for more building materials. You buy him beer, I think he'd do anything, but he'd always call that the wedding chapel. But if you folks watch your step, I'll take you up to the top. Okay. So did you guys go to Hearst Castle?
We did.
Oh.
Here this morning.
Well, thanks for coming here after that.
This was way more interesting.
Yeah, the guy, he was 32 when he came here, 92 when they took him out. He said he had no idea doing this. He just kind of, just built it through his soul or something. He just kind of kept going. But now this, I don't know if you can guess what this used to be. This would actually work.
A sink?
It was 2 sinks in a tub. He had this turned into like a waterfall or a fountain. This sink would actually fill up, run into that sink, and then go into the tub. The tub wasn't full of dirt and stuff. The tub would overflow and water the terrace garden below us. Now it would work. After I found that worked, I think this is some sort of bird bath, because that's the same tubing coming off this valve. I think he turned his bird bath on here and the fountain there. This was all plumbed in. But now in his prime, he would actually have a driveway that connects you to the street behind us. It washed out. But in his prime, he'd drive a 2.5-ton truck down here, unload. He made slides out of corrugated metal. He would slide everything heavy from top to bottom. But what he didn't need or use, he'd bury. Because back in '95, a man drilled up here. For 20 feet below us, they hit layers of junk until they hit groundwater. So the whole pad, even beyond the fence, it's a 20-foot landfill. And he would actually own this property. He lost this in the 60s, probably the same time he lost the other lots. And they built that house in '78. But now just watch your step here, you guys. There's a little like hole. Because it was a couple years ago, we had people up here from Hearst Castle. They tell me this is one of the few remaining pieces he got his hands on from the Hearst Castle that's still here, this concrete piece. And we have a recording. Art said when he came here in the early days, he owned his truck. He said they hired him at the castle for a couple years to haul stuff away while they're building the place. And people tell me, you know, when Nitt Witt Ridge was all put together, they said he had some nice stuff. Most of it's gone, but the people from the castle, they tell me it's one of the few remaining pieces that's still here. And then just watch your step behind you. And then just watch your step coming down. Now what we think happened to Art, we think he fell down up here in 1962. He said he was hurt and had a doctor bill of $500. Well, he borrowed the money from a man in town and paid the doctor, but he never paid back the loan. In 1975, the guy got tired of waiting for his money. Leaned the property, he's going to tear it down. That's when a group of people formed a foundation. The people paid off his loan, but they put the property in their name. So he lost this in '75. They still let him live here, but he got mad. He didn't work on it much after that. The people never worked on it, it kept falling apart. So in 1991, the group was hoping the town would take care of it. They tried to give it to the town refused it. The counties never wanted it. It's been a California state landmark since 1981. The state won't let you tear it down, but the state doesn't own it like they own Hearst Castle. So they don't give it money or help you take care of it. They just make building codes different. So the only way it can stay here, it has to try to take care of itself by giving tours. But you know, we have a recording. Art said Hearst Castle's manufactured. This is just junk. So to me, it's a poor man's castle. And then you guys, I don't know if you noticed while we're going through here, the house up there that's overlooking his cabin. I think they're moving now, but a school teacher originally built the house. She passed away, the daughter has it. That lady tells me her mother and Art didn't get along too well. She said half the time, you can't see it right now, but they got a front door on the other side of the tree. She said half the time when her mother'd go outside, he'd be sunbathing nude out here. He wouldn't make it to the bathrooms when she's outside. But the longer I'm here, I start looking at all the houses. I think they're building them all about the same time. Art might have been thinking, you guys are gonna be looking down on me, you're gonna have to see everything. And I don't know if you happen to notice his toilet on the roof. Now that's not the original, but there's a picture. He would have a toilet up there and a chair mounted on the peaked roof. And these old timers, they tell me he'd have too many coffee breaks. Sometimes he would sit up there in nothing but his bathrobe and yell at everybody looking at the place. But the longer I'm here, I'm thinking, you know, maybe that's just a throne for his castle.
Yeah.
Now, how did you come to own the place?
My wife and I, we drove by, we bought it in 1999, watch your head, from the Art Beale Foundation for $42,000 because they sold the water rights in 97. So if you wanted to live in it, you'd have to buy a water meter. It'd be like $300. But I would never want to live in it. It's his house. So, and the county, they've never really liked it when he's here now. They like, let me do this, but no one's real. It's half and half. Half the people like it, half and don't, because just what it is. But now, this area he would call the crow's nest. He'd bring people out here. They said it was nice out here near the redwood. They said he had a patio table, a wooden cable spool for a tabletop. He has a little wishing well. And there's a picture. This looked like at one time, it was like a greenhouse. He had a corrugated fiberglass roof and a window. Because next to it, he actually had built a potting shed. There was water coming to a sink. But you guys can see the redwood's about to finish off the potting shed, as well as take over the patio. But we've been somewhat fortunate. The roots, they're doing their damage towards the garden. None of the roots seem to be headed towards the house or coming up the back room. Now, he would tell people the tree grew over a ground spring. I think maybe so, and the water's taking the roots towards the ocean, because we have been real lucky. The whole side over here, everything seems to be going that way. And then, you know, this is the only one left, but he would use all his drainage system was the stairs. The stairway just came down. It would drain from there all the way to the street. And at one time he had drainage systems on either side of the property, which have failed. That's why when it rains, if all the stairs were repaired and back together, it would probably take rains pretty good. But now this is actually a fossilized bone. It's a ball joint, bone marrow. I don't know what kind. But I had a woman up here a couple years ago. This lady was 96 years old, probably in better shape than Art. This lady had a wry sense of humor. She started saying, well, how do you know that woman Gloria really left him? And that's not a fossilized bone. But I think that might be a little big. Now, if you look at this rock, does it kind of remind you of an animal head?
Yeah, look, it does.
It's an alligator.
Yeah, see, I get an alligator. Then you look at the impression center of that rock. What's that remind you of? It's almost like a paw print or some sort of, maybe a bear paw or something. And then people tell me this rock here, it kind of reminds them of an owl or a frog. And right below us, you'll see the concrete Jerry saw in the video. I was thinking at one time Hearst Castle had a zoo. Maybe this is his answer, the Nitt Witt Rock Zoo. He seems to have all these crude looking rock animals here. But now Art, he'd tell people he wanted to die here, go back to the earth and just be food for his friends and turkey vultures. He didn't get to do that. But they put his ashes around the redwood. So he made it back here, whether he knows it or not, he's up there right now. And I guess to me, this is important as Hearst Castle. William Randolph Hearst was spending all that money. Back in the days, my grandparents lived a little bit more like Art Beale. They had to make do with what they had as most people. And that's what I really like about the place.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us at Nitt Witt Ridge. If you have a suggestion on where we should go next, drop us a line in the comments below. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe and you'll get new California videos delivered to you every Friday, just in time for the weekend.